Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. One of the burning questions that has preoccupied many Zimbabweans the last 3 years is whether or not Chamisa lied when he said that he had plugged all the vote rigging loopholes to stop ZANU-PF rigging the elections. What is disappointing for me is that this really should be a clear-cut case where anyone with a rational mind who cares about the truth should not even have to argue. What is a lie? Well, a lie is when you say something and then it turns out to be untrue. When you say A is equal to B, and then it's found out that A is not equal to B, then you were lying. So when Chamisa said ED has no room for rigging the elections, to start with, let's be very clear that he did say that. The image I'm showing on the on the screen there is a quotation in Newsday dated the 24th of July 2023. This is just a few days before the 2023 elections. And Chamisa is quoted saying ED has no room for rigging the elections. Here is a video clip of him telling his supporters that he was going to win those elections. And he even evokes the name of God.
Makorokoto Zimbabwe nokuti hakuna munhu anomira kana denga raronga plan. Denga raronga plan, denga harifoiri. Plan yaMwari haifoiri. Ini ndatanga kugadzira cabinet. There is no way we are not going to form a new cabinet. There is no way we are not going to have a celebration. There is no way we are not going to have an inauguration. Let's start preparing for our inauguration. Let's start preparing for our celebration.
So he did say it. We cannot deny it. There he is, telling his followers that it was God's plan. And God's plan would not fail. Triple C was going to form the next government, and he was preparing for the cabinet. A is equal to B. What happened? Well, those elections were blatantly rigged. Let's be very clear on that point. They were rigged. ZANU-PF blatantly rigged the 2023 elections. We did not have even something as basic as a verified voters roll. How do you expect to win an election, to have a free, fair, and credible election without a verified voters roll? Chamisa says he had plugged the vote rigging loopholes. How do you plug the loopholes where many people, according to Tim Pachedu, found themselves, their names were missing from the voters' roll? Tim Pachedu found that some names of people who had voted in previous elections, they found themselves, their names were not in the voters' roll at the polling station they expected it to be. Some of them found they'd been moved within the same constituency to another polling station. In some cases, to another polling station in another constituency, sometimes kilometers away. And worst case scenario, their names were no longer on the voters' roll, completely left out. They found cases of people, 20 names registered on an address using the same address, and it turns out to be a 4-roomed house. 20 names. These are some of the things that should be ironed out when you verify the voters' roll. It's properly audited. That is part and parcel. It's a free, fair, and credible process. And then somebody tells you, I've plugged all the vote rigging loopholes. How did you plug that? That is one of the problems we have here. Indeed, the SADC election observer team and the AU election observer team condemned Zimbabwe's elections because they were flawed and they lacked transparency. Their report is very clear. So there cannot be any doubt as to the result that the elections, the 2023 elections, were rigged. They were flawed. In other words, Chamisa's claim that he had plugged the vote rigging or the vote rigging loopholes was just a lie. It turns out that Chamisa did not even do some of the most basic things that one would expect an individual to do under the circumstances. He did not deploy election agencies at all the polling stations, although he had the money for it. Here is a comment from one of the CCC leaders who participated under that ticket in the 2023 elections, Shelton Wende. In this posting, he tells us that some of the election agents at the polling stations, they were not deployed. And the money pay them was then pocketed, used to buy farms and motor vehicles. So there cannot be any doubt that, number one, the statement that he had plugged all the vote rigging loopholes was a lie. And number two, that Chamisa knew it was a lie. What we are interested in then is the second step. Would the 2 million or so who believed Nelson Chamisa and voted in the 2023 elections have done so if they knew Chamisa was lying? I think the temptation would be, yes, they would have refused to participate if they knew Chamisa was lying to them. I think that is the temptation. But I would argue that these people should have known, because this was not the first time that Chamisa had lied to them. In 2018, Chamisa gave a similar lie. He told them the party was leading then MDC alliance had stringent measures to stop ZANU-PF rigging the elections. Stringent measures to stop ZANU-PF rigging the elections. And yet we know those elections were rigged. Just as readily as the 2023 elections were rigged. So those people should have known, because this has happened before. And indeed, one can go back to 2013. Exactly the same thing happened. And what is more, in 2013, SADC warned the MDC leadership that they should not participate in those flawed elections without first implementing the reforms. They told the leaders at the SADC, special SADC summit in Maputo in June 2013. And that was not a secret meeting. The advice was made public and was given wide coverage. So the people knew that MDC was being advised not to participate in these flawed elections without first implementing the reforms. Because if they did, ZANU-PF will rig those elections. SADC leaders made it that very clear. The MDC guys, by the time they returned back to Zimbabwe, they decided they were going to participate anyway. And it turned out that SADC, although they were the guarantor of the GNU, the global political agreement that led to the GNU, they could not put their foot down and force ZANU-PF to implement the reforms. Because it turned out that there were no outstanding reforms to be implemented. And that was the point that ZANU-PF argued. You want us to postpone the elections to implement reforms. What reforms? And the then Minister of Justice and Parliamentary Affairs, Patrick Chamisa, of ZANU-PF, told the whole world that MDC leaders had not submitted even one token reform proposal in the 5 years of the GNU. You want us to postpone elections to implement reforms. What reforms? SADC leaders were dumbfounded. Of course, they could not insist that there should be reforms implemented when you don't even have one outstanding reform. The truth of the matter is the MDC leaders had not submitted even one reform proposal in the 5 years of the GNU. Mugabe had bribed them with the trappings of high office, including the ministerial, the E-Class Mercedes-Benz limos, very generous salaries and allowances. At the time when civil servants during the GNU were paid a token $100 per month. The MDC, MPs, senators, deputy ministers, ministers, the two deputy prime ministers, and the prime minister himself were being pampered. It is believed that ministers and deputy ministers were paid a cool $1,000 just for attending cabinet meetings. Even if you don't say anything, you get paid $1,000. There is no doubt that MDC leaders were being paid generous salaries and allowances during that GNU period. And for Morgan Tsvangirai, he got his US $4 million mansion in Highlands. And it is not surprising that they forgot to implement even one token reform. Or as Patrick Chamisa boasted, they failed to submit even one reform proposal in the 5 years of the GNU. Not even one. Recently, the nation has learned that actually the MDC leaders were being paid more than the limos and the general salaries and allowances. They were paid a lot more. The top brass in the MDC were given farms and a lot of other goodies besides. Here is somebody revealing that MDC leaders sold out.
bhazi rikafira musango munhu asina kwaari kuenda mubhazi momo anofara kuti ndo patopumba pake nditori nevamwe vangu pana
Tiribo.
munhu anorwadziwa nekurara musango munhu ane kumba
taibhadana kumba kwangu
but amana kumba kugumbezi rangu reria mana so but munhu asina imba hatete kurara musango so opposition inomeka sure kuti vanhu vaya vawane minda but may he so yeah, rest in peace vatsvangirai prazi ravo vanga vainaro Chamisa anaro
ane famu here
kana azoramba ndoenda newe
riri kupi
ane famu
riripi
I know madress emunhu anonetsa kuti focha but anaro chakudza ofu kamera
okay
ane mine
ane mine
ane makaseo
yeah
yes biti ane prazi hauna kumboona here picture yabiti achitenga mombe kuna Temba Mliswa dzekuisa kuprazi one of the biggest beef producers in the Matabeleland region the Washman Ncube
okay
yes ane prazi haana kutenga beneficiary paland reform but what they did is to discourage their people from acquiring mafarms because vaiziva kuti munhu akaona something chapiwa nehurumende haachapikisa
are you for real Mr. Kanishai
nomubvunza Washman Ncube kuti haasi kuita beef here producer beef here paprasi tonyandanetsa naupo waching'ono gore rere handiti kuti stand yaupo waching'ono standard ine painogumira but vakatotaura nehurumende nemasabhuku ikaextendwa because aita god
brings us back again to the question, would the 2 million or so who believed Chamisa's lie of plugging all the vote rigging loopholes have participated in the 2023 elections if they knew it was a lie? Well, we have established that they should have known that it was a lie, that it not. The second question would be, would they have believed Chamisa's idiotic lie if they'd known that Chamisa and company had sold out? Again, we've established that yes, Chamisa and company had indeed sold out. They failed to implement even one token reform. They failed to submit even one reform proposal in 5 years. If that's not selling out, I don't know what is. And we've also established that they were rewarded for kicking out the reforms out of the window. They were bribed with the official high office benefits. And we've also established they even got farms over and above the usual high office trappings of high office. What is important here is also to establish that Chamisa and company knew what they were doing. Because after the 2013 elections, David Coulthard, one of the leaders, admitted that those elections were flawed. So flawed, so illegal, that the only logical step was to withdraw. So naturally, the question one would ask is, well, so why didn't they withdraw? And he explains it there. He was only going to withdraw if he could persuade the other faction, the other MDC faction. There were two of them. The one led by Morgan Tsvangirai, and then the one led by, initially by Atham Tambara, and then later on by Welshman Ncube. They were only going to withdraw if they could be certain that the other side would withdraw. And so the idea was, let's form a coalition, and then the coalition will withdraw from the election. The idea of the coalition never took any traction at all. It doesn't say which side, but I think one can guess that both sides did not want to withdraw. They knew that ZANU-PF was offering a few gravy train seats to entice the opposition to participate. And each side was going for those gravy train seats. And they've participated in flawed elections ever since 2013 for those reasons. Greed. So the question one has got to ask is, would the people have refused to participate in the flawed elections if they had known that the opposition leaders were participating in these elections out of greed? Again, one has to say that people did know. These people should have known. Because, like I said, that statement from David Coulter's book came out soon after the 2013 elections. So those who had ears to hear and the intellect to comprehend would have comprehended it. And if they had comprehended it, I believe they would not have been so easily conned. As for the 2 million, I don't think they even comprehended it. This is the tragedy of Zimbabwe. We have given the vote to millions of people who really do not even appreciate that having the vote carries with it, like any other right, a duty of care. In his book, Animal Farm, George Orwell talks of the boxer, the horse. Boxer took just as long to learn the first 4 letters of the alphabet as other animals took to learn all the 26 letters of the alphabet. And then he moved on to learning the next 4 letters. And again, it took him just as long to learn the next 4. And by the time he had mastered them, it was found he had forgotten the first 4 letters. I think the teacher and boxer himself gave up at that point. And so we had this animal boxer who had failed to learn the letters of the alphabet, so he could not read or write. And to underline his intellectual challenges, boxer could not formulate any ideas of his own, even on issues that you would think anyone else should be able to formulate ideas, should be able to see for themselves. And in this particular case, this underlines this problem we have. We have people who, the idea that Chamisa lied about plugging vote rigging loopholes is so simple and so straightforward. Only somebody with the intellect of Boxer the horse would have problems coming to the conclusion that Chamisa lied. Boxer, when he found he could not formulate any ideas of his own, like people in his circumstance, they tend to farm out ideas to other people. In his case, he started believing everything that Napoleon, the leader, said. And so he adopted the motto, Napoleon is always right. The Greeks, who are credited with giving mankind democracy, 2,500 years ago, identified 3 types of human beings. First one they call the idiot, the one who only thinks of himself, of now, and doesn't care about anything else. Cannot function even within his own family because he only thinks of himself. And then they call the second class the tribesman. The tribesman thinks of the tribe. And everything beyond the tribe doesn't matter. So you will support the tribe no matter what. And the Greeks say that to this individual, tribalism is his religion. And the leader is the demigod. They believe everything that the leader tells them, and they will defend them to the hilt. Then the third class of people, they call the citizen. Here is somebody who respected the rule of law, who understands that political stability and prosperity depends on cooperation with others. And he values above all the truth. Here is somebody who has embraced the idea of do unto others as you want to do them to do unto you. Because he realizes the sheer futility of the tribesman's mentality of dominate or be dominated. It's futile. You spend all your life fighting to dominate other people, and they are fighting you back. And you know that even if you do succeed in dominating them, it is just a matter of time. Everybody out there is fighting for a chance to dominate you. It is the most primeval. A man with reason would know this is just futile. Why would I want to dominate somebody if I don't want to be dominated myself? So he embraces the value, he understands, he appreciates the importance of doing unto others as you want them to do unto you, the importance of the rule of law. It's necessary for stability. And that is what we have got here. We have got citizens or individuals out there who really have failed to perform above the tribesman mentality. These people know that Chamisa lied, but they just can't mentally process it because to them, Chamisa is a demigod. Like I said, tribalism is their religion, and the leader is their God. And this is the reason why the nation has been caught up in this endless cycle. The tragedy with this story is, of course, that having lied to these people and conned them to participate in 2023 elections, Chamisa has recently announced that he is coming back to the political dance floor, and it is clear he's coming back to con people to participate in the next elections, 2028 elections. Flawed. You tell them this time he's going to win. He has got a well-organized citizen movement. We are going to win. And our boxer electorate will believe the lie, participate in those flawed elections, and give ZANU-PF legitimacy. Tragic. We are not out of the woods yet as a people. Come 2028, it will be 48 years after independence, and we still failing to hold free, fair, and credible elections. How sad is that? Think about it. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.